The Maryland Horse Breeders Association sponsored an open house at area horse farms. We visited Willowdale, a farm owned by Dr. Michael Harrison, who is a veterinarian and president of the Maryland Horse Breeders Association. He walked us through the insemination of a mare.
So we are doing a rectal to evaluate the mare's ovaries. She is in season, so she's receptive to a stallion. She is been given a shot of a ovulation-inducing agent called desirelin, and that was given at 7:30 on Thursday evening. It normally will make 35 millimeter follicle ovulate in about 45, give or take, 2 hours from its administration. So she should be getting close to ovulating really around now till a little bit later on this evening.
And Michael, why is it that you want to orchestrate when she's going to ovulate?
Well, because we're using frozen semen, which is convenient in that a horse can have the semen collected and preserved for whenever you might deem to want to breed. I've had horses who's been dead for 15, 20 years, and their semen is still available.
So it's no different than a woman wanting to have a baby and to save a man's semen to impregnate a woman.
Yes, correct. Much later in life or whenever. And some very, very valuable horses, would then be able to have their offspring. Go ahead and breed her.
If you want to look at the ultrasound, look at the screen.
We're looking for the presence of a follicle, and her follicle is right there is an ovulation, that whiter area in the middle.
Uh-huh.
So we're going to go ahead and breed her right now. I'm going to sedate her.
Okay.
And let that kick in and everything else.
Can it be traumatic for a horse to be impregnated at a time?
We hope not.
No, but no. Naturally, is there risk for a horse that maybe there isn't
natural
when?
Cover, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes. But life is full of all kinds of risks. In most cases, if the mare's receptive and everything else, there's not a problem with it.
And Michael, you have been a veterinarian for how long?
A long time.
Where did you go to school?
I went to University of Florida.
Aw.
And I graduated in '82.
You specialize in horses?
I do. I have done a little work in the past. I had worked with alpacas. A lot of the owners of horses had gotten into the alpacas. Jim, if you wouldn't give her this, it's the dorm board.
And I
We're going to get set up to get started.
This is not thoroughbred, that's why he's able to do it with artificial insemination. It's an interesting flag. Let's see that. No, I'm not sure what I can.
We want pink. We want a girl.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, we don't have blue that wrap. What do you think of that, yellow?
I'll stop. You're goofy. So usually we don't have to sedate to do this procedure, but I don't know whether she's young or whether she's just high strung.
Oh.
So we're going to relax
She's
her.
an Arab.
Oh, she's an Arabian. That
No, I
explains
know.
everything. They're nervous.
She's very nervous.
That's part of her whole
And
demeanor.
when she hears a lot of commotion going on behind her, she gets really, because she can't see what's going on behind her.
Are horses susceptible to allergies? I mean, do they
Yes.
act certain ways in the
Yes.
springtime, for instance? Because there are an awful lot of allergies
Yes.
going on now.
Bugs, dirt, grass.
Getting in.
I like her better this way.
I like her better this way too.
And how big is she?
About 15 hands.
15 hands equates to how many pounds?
Each hand is 4 inches high to the rear. And she probably weighs about 900 pounds.
Oh my gosh. Is she still growing?
No,
No?
she's at her full. Arabs usually are not very big horses. They're not big like thoroughbreds.
And Holly, what are you doing?
I'm just wrapping her tail so that any of these hairs are not pushed into the
Oh,
vaginal tract. Trying to eliminate any infection.
and Holly, you went to school with Michael at in Florida as well?
Yes, University of Florida's College of Veterinary Medicine,
And where's that located?
Gainesville, Florida.
Oh, okay.
If you want to come in here, you'll see how I get the semen. And we are, this is it's basically like a little coffee pot, but it's going to be, it'll go up to the proper temperature for thawing the semen. Every time they do the collection and then the freezing of the semen, the protocol is written down and it's given to you along with the semen, so you know how to thaw it out. The way it was frozen is the way it sort of has to be thawed out. So the instructions.
Where did this come from? Are you allowed to say?
Oh, this was from Select Breeders, which happens to be one of the places on today's farm tour stops for people to go see some of the things that they do. And they specialize in the collection and freezing and storage of semen. And a very nice facility. It's over in Chesapeake City. So, and this sort of tells us information about, you know, the horse and the number of straws. There are 8 straws. The straws are identified, so all this has been, you know, well documented.
I don't understand. What is a straw?
The straw you will see.
Oh, okay.
Each straw is sort of a unit amount of frozen semen.
Oh.
The horse has been tested for EVA, equine viral arthritis, negative. It has the number of straws here per dose. There's 1 dose, there's 8 straws to make that, and the post-thaw motility, meaning when it's thawed, and we look at it under a microscope on a slide, should be around 55%. Okay? It also tells you instructions on handling and thawing and so forth. All right?
Okay.
And the most important thing is that the temperature of the water be at the right. Although this has a digital gauge, I'm quite old school, so I kind of like to use a traditional thermometer to verify as well too, that the temperature is correct.
What's the temperature going to go to?
I think it's 37. Yeah. 37 degrees is what they want it to be.
And that's to thaw properly the semen?
Mm-hmm.
And how much semen do you think will be in this straw?
It'll probably be maybe 3 mils, 3 cc's. It's not a lot.
And how soon will you know if this works?
14, 15 days.
So we can check back with you and see if it worked?
Yeah, you can.
Cool!
Uh-huh. Let's see here.
Is it possible for a horse to have twins?
Absolutely.
Really?
It's not a good thing though, because usually you
Yeah.
end up losing both of the pregnancies.
Aww.
There's a chart here that talks about that.
Aww.
Outcome of twins. Yeah, right there.
Oh. Has it gotten to a point that you can pick out what you think is the best sperm for the horse, or you're injecting a bunch of sperms?
I'm putting the bunch of sperms in.
Oh.
They've tried sexing and that sort of thing, you know, to try to specify if people want a colt versus a filly, that kind of thing. But, and we're getting up there slowly.
And how long has this process been in existence, do you think?
What, frozen semen?
Yeah.
I think it's been widely practiced as sort of an everyday thing, probably since early 80s.
And what did they do prior to that? Bring the
Natural
horse?
cover or cooled semen, meaning it's put in an extender, it's still alive, but it's chilled down to slow its metabolism and extend its life. Allow it to be shipped across the country, whatever you want, and then be inseminated into the mare.
But that natural cover, could you explain that to us, please?
That's the way horses did it before man got involved. Okay.
So they would have to move the horses. They would have to bring the horses.
Bring the mare to the stallion,
right,
or the stallion to the mare. Usually the stallions would stand at a given farm, a stud farm, and the mare would be brought to that location, and the mare would then be bred.
Was the mare easier to move around than the stallion?
Well, stallions would be kept in a facility that, you know, would have a breeding shed, for example. When I first started practicing here on the farm, this was actually a breeding shed. That's why the stalls are a little different. There's the older wooden ones over here on the right, and on the left you see those portable stall structures that were installed later. That whole big area was where we did breeding back then, and now, you know, now it's just for stalls. We don't keep stallions that we breed any longer. All right, we are up to about 36. If we can just get it up to 37, and we'll be ready to go. And I think we're pretty darn close to 37 right now.
And the name of your farm?
Willowdale Farm.
Willowdale Farm. Is that
Yep.
for something in history?
It was for the willow trees that were growing here on the farm when we first moved here back in '62. All right, this is a shipping container that has liquid nitrogen in it. And we are going to pick up and drop in a straw at a time. Can you see, look down in there, can you see the straws?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm going to go back down because I want the tips of the probe to get good and cold.
You've been storing this for how long?
The owner went over yesterday to Chesapeake City and picked up this,
Semen.
yes. Cotton.
But presumably it could be in there for a really long time.
Oh, well, this is a transport tank. The amount of liquid nitrogen here would allow it to stay here for, I think it's 17 days. It's either 12 or 17. Okay?
Okay.
The tank that's behind me here is a bigger, longer term storage with one filling of liquid nitrogen. That will last about 3 months.
Oh.
So I don't have anything in there at this time, but because I'm not doing as much of this as I used to. And there we go. Now that's in there. We have to make sure it's had long enough to completely thaw out.
So everything is sterilized because it's in the liquid nitrogen, is that
No,
right?
it's not sterilization. It's just
No.
preserved by freezing. That's
Oh,
what
I
the
see.
point in that is.
Oh. Is there anything that we have to worry about with sterilization?
No. Semen is a dirty material.
Okay, it's not
It's
sterile.
not sterile
per
just
se.
by the fact
By
that
the
where it
nature
comes out
how-
of.
Exactly. People like to think of it, but there's a lot of nasty things associated that are in there as well.
Right.
I want to make sure we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, 8 straws.
How often can a horse mate in a year?
How often can the horse mate?
Yeah.
They in breeding farms, they will actually be breeding twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day.
You're going to impregnate her now,
Yes.
and then you could do that another day as well?
Well, you asked how often can a horse impregnate?
Yeah,
how
right.
Often will a horse
Okay.
be
Get pregnant.
No. Oh,
There are two different things here, right?
Impregnation, yes. When we're talking about, heck, I don't know. Some horses in the wild might breed 3-4 times a day on a given mare,
Oh, really?
or other mares in a herd situation.
Oh,
But in at stud farms, they will breed the horse twice a day, morning and afternoon breeding. And most horses are able to go ahead with that kind of a breeding frequency. Okay, you see why they're called straws? Okay, I'm taking them out of the water bath where they've had ample time to come to proper temperature. Okay, and I'm basically cutting off one end, which has a little steel ball in the tube, putting it down in to
The vial?
to the little, yes.
so all of the straws are being dumped into one vial.
Yep. And then I'll draw it up in a syringe, and we're going to use a deep horn, a method called deep horn insemination. I try to get the tip of the delivery device up to closer to where the oviduct comes into the uterus. Because we're using such smaller volumes with frozen semen, it means that those little guys have shorter distance to transverse in order to get where they got to go to do their job.
And do you try to match up the ages of the horses before you breed them? Does that make
not
is
really.
that important?
No.
No.
What people are looking for is a given sire's temperament, offspring, that sort of thing.
Well, that's
matches well.
that's the sire, but what about the mare then?
Usually, well, I mean, it depends.
If you have a high strung sire, then you want more of a
Certainly.
laid back mare, or
Sure,
vice versa.
And certainly some people do that,
Uh-huh.
and that's it's fine. And that's the last one there. Let's see what this stuff looks
6 of them.
8.
Oh, 8. Sorry, 8. What's this stuff?
This is just a microscope slide that's been warmed. Temperature shock can be bad news.
Now, what are you doing, Michael?
We're taking a look at it to see what kind of motility we got. Remember, we saw that it should be 55%.
So you're going to confirm that by looking through the
We want to
microscope?
see what it looks like. Make sure we're not putting dead stuff in there. What good is that?
Did it match up? The numbers match up?
I think it was good.
Oh, good. How do you know when the horse is ovulating?
Well, when I did the ultrasound, I was looking for presence of a follicle that I knew was there, and it wasn't, and I could actually see the collapsed structure that it had ruptured. Follicles, that black space we were seeing. Anyway, when we did the ultrasound, we had those black circles. That's they were follicles. Each one of those on the ovary was a fluid-filled structure, and there's a little tiny egg, which we're not seeing when we're ultrasounding. When it ovulates, the follicle ruptures, the follicular fluid and the egg is released into the abdominal cavity, and then that then goes via the infundibulum, which is the sort of a funnel, if you will, opening to the oviduct, and then into the oviduct itself where fertilization occurs.
Sorry.
So you're putting the semen exactly where you want it to be so that it goes right into the fallopian tube so they don't have to swim all the way up to it.
I used to work for Holly.
Oh, yes, of course.
Sorry,
That's all right. I got it. I'm fine.
hand where feet.
Got you working again.
Yeah, sure.
Get the bill at the end of the month, don't worry.
Yep.
You would
That's fine.
Poor Jennifer
cut
Neiman.
the tip, and let me maybe advance this, and then I'll grab that or the other, one or the other. Yeah, just get it out. You can get ready. I'm gonna go in first because I want to see how her cervix is. This mare's had a tight cervix in the past, and I might have to dilate it a little bit. I toyed with this, and you know, this is stuff my Prostel on it, prostaglandin.
Hello. Hello. You're all right. You're all right. Hello.
Fine, sweetie.
Hello. You're okay. You're okay. Good girl.
Much better.
Good girl.
Okay.
He said, yeah, this is once and this is enough.
I know you'd be a wonderful mama.
This her first?
Yeah, she's never been in full before.
Okay.
We'll go get the semen.
Wonderful mommy.
Yeah. That's all right. Good girl.
We're going in. I found the cervix, pushing this little delivery straw, if you will, up and into her uterus. Now, I gotta go in to sort of make sure I can get it in the right horn. And I just want to go and turn the tip. And work it up. Okay, so Holly, whenever you're ready, make sure you got an air cushion on it too. Back, because you want to push it. Yeah, pull back a little bit, get a little more air. There you go. Looks like a giant long straw or pipette, and simply passing that into the cervix and dumping the semen there. So this has been.
It's the direct route.
We got it up to the tip of the uterine horn.
So you don't need the quantity.
Well, we hope it's going to go further with what we gave her, and you know, in other words, dumped right at the door. Fertilization occurs in the oviduct. Okay, you got a uterus on the mare, like shaped like that, with two horns, and the side she ovulates on is the side we're going after, because that follicle that released its egg on that side is going to come in the oviduct on that side. Don't ask me why, because that's one of those things God did that's absolutely amazing. How does the egg know inside? Because it's released into the abdominal cavity. And this is true with you, any woman, any female. Somehow it miraculously ends up in the oviduct. And it goes down in the oviduct, and that's where the sperm comes up through the uterus to meet it. And fertilization occurs there. So all we did is we sort of were a delivery assistance device to get it closer to the end, the tip of the uterus, right where the oviduct comes into it. So those sperm are put there, and hopefully then they can migrate up and do their thing, you know, unite with the egg to create an embryo and go from there. And
Thank
that's
you,
it.
Michael. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.